Thanks a lot, guys. So my wife likes to ask, what are you thinking, at random times throughout the day, especially when I'm sitting there kind of staring off into space. And I gave her the title of this talk, and this was her response. And I had to explain to her that Subspace Anomalies is a Star Wars thing. And she got it after that. In his book, Land of Lisp, Conrad Barsky uses games to illustrate programming techniques. He wrote a game called Grand Theft Wumpus. There's Hunt the Wumpus with kind of updated for the GTA crowd. Action takes place in Congestion City. Congestion City is stored as a graph. The graph has a lot of information about who is where, where's the Wumpus, where are the cops. Both edges and nodes have information that stores all of this state. In Mike Mayfield's 1971 classic, Star Trek, you may have played it on a mainframe way back when, the galaxy is decomposed into a grid of 8x8 grid of quadrants, and then each quadrant is broken down into 8x8 sectors. So there's 4,096 total places that a Klingon could be, or your spaceship, yada, yada, yada. I was explaining all this to my dog on one of our walks, and he said, well, is a grid the same as a graph? And I said, well, that's very clever. What if we were to take that grid and implement it as a graph instead? What do we get? First of all, we get lots of really interesting ways to connect these grids together. We have edge directionality. An edge can be directed or undirected. We have boundary conditions. The boundaries could be, the grid could be bound, the grid could be bound, you get to the edge and you bounce off the edge. The whole, there was like a galactic rim. You couldn't go beyond the galaxy in Star Trek, the TOS. You could have a torus. In other words, you could wrap around. So the bottom connects to the top, the left connects to the right, and you get a big torus. Secondly, we can have different shapes. We can store things as a Cartesian grid with rows and columns, or we can store things as a polar grid with sectors and rings. So we've got, in the original Star Trek, it was an 8x8 sector, so I decomposed that into a 3x16 polar graph, and it made its way to my little game. Network connectivity. If you just connect the orthogonal nodes together, up, down, left, right, you get what's called a von Neumann neighborhood. If you then add to that the diagonals, you get a Moore neighborhood. One is obviously more connected than the other. So what does this all get us? We have this very interesting way of connecting all these nodes together. So our player is going from node to node down this graph. Not only do we have those interesting ways of connecting the nodes together, we also have an interesting way of very easily changing the topography of the map. So in a regular graph, you have a set of nodes, a set of edges. In the undo graph, you have a set of nodes and a set of edges, but they're implemented as stacks. So I'm going to to change the topography, I'm going to push a number of edges onto this stack. And that's going to change the topology. When I want to go back to normal, I just pop the stack. So I've added I've got a graph, and I've added this undo stack. When you activate a subspace anomaly, we're going to push a new set of edges onto that stack, and then we're also going to push a lambda expression onto the undo stack, so that when we're done mucking about in hyperspace, we can simply call that undo method and pop that stack, and we're back to normal. So here we've got normal space. It's a Cartesian Moore grid, and the player does something. I don't know. He pushes the button. And all of a sudden, he gets Subspace. This is oh, boy, I really screwed that up, didn't I? This is the Moore neighborhood. The previous one was the von Neumann neighborhood. But this is a torus. All of a sudden, it becomes a lot easier to scoot around the galaxy. These are subspace anomalies. What if I were to take a single node and change 3 out of 4 edges to be incoming only? Whoa, what's the player going to do? Maybe I've got a conduit. I have 2 cells on opposite sides of the galaxy, and we have a conduit between the 2 of them. Or how about the chamber or the well? I really like. Everything goes into the node, nothing comes out until the player solves some puzzle, pops the stack, and is free to go on. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you letting me come up here and kind of show and tell what I do in retirement. So y'all have fun. I'll see you around. Thanks.